Good Lord, it's 2026. What's up, everybody? I'm Nick Valencia, host of Nick Valencia Live, and this is our first show of the year. And man, I was like, do we go and have a show earlier in the year? We were trying to transition back from Los Angeles to Atlanta because so much news happened. I was editing a piece on MacArthur Park in my mom's backyard at about 11 p.m. when I started getting alerts that Caracas was being bombed. And I'm like, what? Eric and I had talked about this a lot, about the potential of seeing maybe even US troops on the ground as we approached, got closer and closer to the Epstein files deadline, full release of the Epstein files. And so we had been keeping an eye on this. And if you've been watching our social media, you may have seen some of the clips that we shared. Leading up to this, if you don't know and want to get caught up, there have been a lot of aggressive military actions towards Venezuela by the United States, seizing drug boats, they say, bombing boats. I mean, I think there was dozens of civilians that were killed in these operations, and several people injured, and I think a few that were killed in the operations of the bombings in Caracas. But it went into a full-out invasion just after the new year. And we have video I think we want to show you here of the bombings. Eric, if you could bring that up just to see this sort of campaign that was unleashed. And we saw Chinooks go in there. And one of the things that was pointed out by a social media user that I follow, Quadzilla Hikes, shout out to him. He does great work. I believe he has some service background. He's like, if you look at any single one of these videos, you don't see any, real resistance from the Venezuelan military. So he points out, did Maduro get sold out by his own military? Were we such a sophisticated military that we were able to disable all the anti-aircraft missiles or resistance that they had? Because every one of these videos that you see, it's totally one-sided. The bombs just dropping just repeatedly on Caracas, a major city there. So we had that happen. But even before this, leading up to this is news that you may have missed. We want to play you a clip, but before we do that, remind you what today is. This is January 6th. It's the 5-year anniversary of the insurrection on the nation's capital. And no, I will never get tired of bringing that day up and reminding people what happened. It is not a myth. This was not started by Nancy Pelosi. This was not instigated by federal agents or the FBI that were in there. People have a really serious problem, in the crowd rather. People have a really serious problem with taking accountability and seeing that there are just political crazies in this world that are so willing to try to storm our nation's capital. And one of the things that we pointed out, when it happened, that day it happened, is that we never saw the Confederate flag during the era of the Civil War fly on the grounds of the Capitol. That only happened 5 years ago when one of the insurrectionists decided to wave the Confederate flag on the Capitol. Think about that. Think about the type of people that were there. Think about what Trump got away with. And I say he got away with it because listen to Special Counsel Jack Smith under oath testifying to the Judiciary Committee on December 13th that this insurrection that happened on January 6, 2021, was only the responsibility of one man, President Trump.
Bring charges against President Trump was mine. But the basis for those charges rests entirely with President Trump and his actions, as alleged in the indictments returned by grand juries in 2 different districts. Our investigation developed proof beyond a reasonable doubt that President Trump engaged in a criminal scheme to overturn the results of the 2020 election and to prevent the lawful transfer of power. Our investigation also developed powerful evidence that showed that President Trump willfully retained highly classified documents after he left office in January of 2021, storing them at his social club, including in a ballroom and a bathroom. He then repeatedly tried to obstruct justice to conceal his continued retention of those documents. I remain grateful for the counsel, judgment, and advice of my team as I executed my responsibilities. I am both saddened and angered that President Trump has sought revenge against career prosecutors, FBI agents, and support staff simply for doing their jobs.
When you look at that clip, I want to ask yourself, who do you believe? Do you believe this loud, boisterous man that wears a ton of makeup that talks to the nation as if he's on a reality TV show? Or do you believe a man like that, like Jack Smith, a distinguished career prosecutor who moves with dignity and integrity, and he stayed out of the limelight, That was one of the things that was the downfall of the case here against Trump. People thought that had teeth, but Fani Willis couldn't stay out of the public eye. It was that killed the case here. Jack Smith, they constantly put it to him and how he moved and stayed out of the spotlight. You never heard a peep out of him unless he absolutely had to make a statement. And the case that he had against President Trump dissolved only because Trump took power, not because there was no merits. And there you have it. Him laying out clear as day that Trump was responsible. He was behind the insurrection, that he stood to benefit what happened there on January 6th. And you know, as Eric points out in my ear, the video was buried. Who among us here, who saw that video of Jack Smith telling the American people that Trump was responsible for the insurrection? Go take a look. I'm glad we put it on this show because we'll just replay this show and it'll be on record and you could see it there on our social media. You know, I was talking about this with Eric and others in LA when I was back home over the holidays. Trump moves so much like an alcoholic, and we heard that in the profile of Vanity Fair. He moves like an addict. You know, he's clearly not an alcoholic. The man says he doesn't drink. His brother was an alcoholic. So the disease is clearly in his family. Most people probably don't have the authority or really knowledge about addiction to talk about this, but I feel like I do because I am an addict. I am an alcoholic, a recovered one. I have nearly 5 years without a drink, and I have been in a program of recovery. And if anyone knows how an alcoholic and an addict moves, it's me. We move out of fear. We want to control things. We're self-absorbed. We're narcissistic. It's all about us. Does all that sound familiar? Putting your names on the Kennedy Center, putting your name, slapping them on buildings, selling your name so you can make profit off of it, moving like this is all a reality TV show. The difference, though, between me and President Trump and others in recovery, other addicts, is that we hit rock bottom. They say in the program, your lover, your liver, or the law brings you in. And so far, the law hasn't done anything to Trump. His liver ain't going to do it because he doesn't drink. And his lover, Melania, we see how cold she is to him in public. I don't even want to get into that personal stuff, but, you know, I mean, it's out there for us to see. And she is a public figure. So, yeah, you're right. I'm looking at the comments here. That Jack Smith testimony should have been, should have been everywhere. And I'm not accusing, it was buried. It was buried by Venezuela. That Jack Smith video should have been everywhere, but it was buried by Venezuela. And we have somebody here on the show, Christian Ramos, to come in and talk about it. Christian, come on in, man. Christian, you are a Democratic strategist in Washington, D.C., and you also presented on Venezuela very recently to tell us about it with Autonomy Strategies. Hey, how are you? Happy New Year. All that good stuff, by the way.
Thank you so much. It all happened so quickly. There's so much misinformation out there about what's going on, what happened, and more importantly, how it's being received by American audiences and Latinos. And so I joined the Progressive Mobilization Call because I wanted to make sure that as many people understood Latinos' views on this issue and how they are very much in line with the rest of the country's views on what's happening in Venezuela. And I think there's two things that can be said at the same time. Two things can be true at the same time. Maduro was a vicious dictator who we should all be glad is no longer in office. And the other thing that is also true is this country is currently suffering high unemployment, is suffering from healthcare costs that are going through the roof. Costs of living is rising. We are not running this country well. The idea that we could go and run another country is a farce and is not going to happen. And I would ask this for your viewers.
Yeah.
Has anything that Donald Trump and the team around him, anything that they said that they were going to do, Doge, immigration, all of these things, have they done anything the way they said that they were going to do it? Has any of that stuff gone the way it said that it was going to go? No.
In Trump's world, it's never straightforward. It's never exactly the way it is. I brought you on here because I wanted to get you to explain to our viewers what we should make of this. You have a dictator, a bad guy taken down. People should celebrate that, right? But at the same time, you have the U.S. invading a country, a sovereign nation, without congressional approval. And there's going to be a lot of political opportunists. We talked about this at the start of the show. I want to play you a BBC clip. It's about a minute long that shows just some of the misinformation and disinformation that is actively being put out there and how they dispelled it. Take a look.
launched strikes on Venezuela and seized President Nicolas Maduro and his wife, videos claiming to show people celebrating inside Venezuela have been widely circulating online. But they're misleading. Like this video, for example, shared by right-wing conspiracy theorist Alex Jones. It falsely claims to show large crowds in the Venezuelan capital, Caracas, celebrating the seizure of Nicolas Maduro. And it has over 2 million views. But it's not new. It actually shows anti-Maduro protests in Venezuela in 2024 over a highly disputed election. And this, a post viewed by millions on X, again falsely claims to show celebrations erupting all across Venezuela. Now this video is recent, but this is actually in Florida. We know this because of details in the background and comparing it with other videos that it's actually this petrol station in the city of Doral. And again, this post claims to be crowds of people lining the streets in Venezuela, but we verified it's actually Venezuelans in Panama City by identifying the location of this bridge. Now, there have been Venezuelans out celebrating in the streets across the world, but in this case, we've not seen those crowds in the country itself. Some Venezuelans have told the BBC that that's because they feel scared and they can't freely voice their feelings about what's happened.
Well, this is actually perfect because I think the thing that is missing here is how much all of this has to do with Marco Rubio, and it has to do with Miami exiles from both Cuba and Venezuela. And what I mean by that is Marco Rubio began his political career in Florida, and he grew up among Cuban exiles and Venezuelan exiles. And it is their revenge fantasy that they were always going to go and retake their countries from people like Maduro and Castro and all of that. And I believe that Marco Rubio is acting out on that. I think that is what we're seeing here. I think Donald Trump has his own things that he wants to accomplish here. But I absolutely believe that Marco Rubio has ambitions for 2028. And if you're taking out Maduro and you're taking out Castro, that's very big feathers in your cap. And I think that's a big part of what you're seeing here. And I'll take it even a step further, because what I think is really interesting, scary, sad is politically for MAGA, this is like the opposite of what they want to see. MAGA is not an interventionist ideology. MAGA is very much America first. And so this notion that we're going to go do nation building in Latin America is like the anthema to these folks. And so I think it's very interesting to see all of these competing emotions and feelings happening all at once, because I do think if you look at it on paper, Donald Trump was elected because he wasn't a neocon, no more long-term wars. And then he gets into office and he starts acting just like a neocon. And so for the MAGA faithful, this is very weird. The only thing that in my mind really explains the politics of it are the oil piece, but I think also Marco Rubio, 2028, I think he really wants to position himself, and he's acting out on his exile Cuban Venezuelan fantasies right now. I mean, he's never said he was going to
I hadn't heard that before. I mean, it's Trump stands to gain a lot in terms of distraction. It's the ultimate wag the dog. There's a movie out there about that. What do you want to do? Let's start a war, distract everybody from the bullshit that's happening here, like the Epstein files, and not having a full understanding of what's in those, or bearing the news that's coming out about you. What's easier than starting a war to distract people, Or also, if your economy is going to shit here, let's go steal the resources from somewhere else so we could fake the numbers. I mean, that's the assessment here. We have Jerrod Zisser on in just a little bit. Right after you, we're going to ask him. He's a combat military veteran. We're going to ask him about his take. But before I let you go, what else do you think? Any comments on January 6th or anything else that you think we're missing in Venezuela?
I mean, look, January 6th, to me, there's a through line between what happened on January 6th and what happened in Venezuela.
Oh, okay.
And the through line is this. This is a guy who does not care who he hurts, how he hurts them, and what he breaks to get what he wants. And it is entirely in his self-interest. I think what is fascinating about all of this is a guy who, again, said no wars, no interventions. He has now not only gone into another country, he is now going to use American tax dollars to subsidize oil companies so that they will go in there and make the pipelines there better, because they're shit, they're broken now. So he's going to spend all of our money on this oil that who knows if when we'll ever see it, right? It's going to be all run by these multinational corporations who, who's to say when they get it that the prices don't continue to rise and so on and so forth. Like when these monopolies occur, it never benefits consumers. And so like it's just remarkable.
You brought up the neocon thing. Is Trump just Bush 3.0? You got Bush 1 going in for oil, right? And Noriega also. You got Bush 2 taking out Saddam, oil. Now you got Trump over here taking out Maduro, oil, neocon.
I will say this for Trump. At least he's honest about it.
That's one thing that his supporters say, that he's authentically himself in every single room, and authentically crazy is my response. Thank you so much, Cristian Ramos. I really appreciate you coming in, also being a friend of the show. Thanks for always being available, man. Appreciate you. Follow him, Cristian Ramos. We'll advertise him at the back end of the show. But again, thank you so much, man. Have a great rest of the day, and I will talk to you soon.
Take it easy, buddy.
You got it, my man. Awesome. One of the interesting clips that I saw come out about Venezuela was somebody who usually is the MAGA talking point person, media arm of MAGA, Megyn Kelly. She's out there. What is she? Is she a conservative today? Is she a moderate today? Is she level-headed? Is she all about protecting the most persecuted person in America, the white woman? That's what her stance is. And today, or recently, she was all about, let's not invade Venezuela. It was shocking to me, because this is somebody who has been so full-throated in her defense of President Trump, even though she's the same person that was on the other end of his ire very early on in 1.0. Are our political memories short-term or what? This is why it's important to have journalists who have been around the block and have the trauma streak in their hair now, right? Let's play this clip from Megyn Kelly talking out of both sides of her mouth. Take a listen.
Joining the Fox News cheerleading brigade this time. I've been burned too many times. When I was at Fox News, which was a long time, 14 years, I would have known exactly what to do in the wake of Trump's attack in Venezuela. I would have known that I was supposed to cheerlead it. And I turned on Fox News yesterday, and I'm sorry, but it was like watching Russian propaganda. I have done that enough times in my career as a Fox News anchor to have been embarrassed enough to know I'm going to stay on the yellow light. And what does it mean in terms of boots on the ground? Trump is saying, I'm actually fine with that in Venezuela. Well, whose boots? Because I have a 16-year-old boy, and I have a 12-year-old boy, and I have a 14-year-old girl. And a lot of my listeners have children, too, who are actually the ones who might have to fill the boots. So I think I speak for a lot of moms and dads, for that matter, when I say I'm staying in yellow territory until we know more. And I will not be joining the Fox News cheerleading brigade this time. I've been burned too many times.
The children, but what about the children? This is the same person that said it was okay to have sex with 15-year-olds, that they're not 8-year-olds, right? That's the same person that said it's okay. It's not the same thing. These aren't real kids. These are mature kids. Where are you at, Megyn Kelly, today? What do you believe besides in the money? What really do you believe besides a big old fat paycheck? You blast big media for us and our lack of integrity. You blast local journalists and small-time journalists, independent journalists. You're the only truth out there. What the hell is your reality? Every day it's something different. And today it's, hey, we shouldn't put boots on the ground in Venezuela. Was it because you were hung out to dry when you made that defense of the president as a potential pedophile? Is that why you decided now to maybe not be as much of an advocate for Donald Trump as you have been? It bothers me so much, because I have people in my life who say that this is the truth, that this is the only respected journalist that there is out there. There's people who told me this months ago. They're not my friends anymore, because I thought, that was a very early indicator of just how crazy this was. I don't get it, man. I don't get how people can just grift and make a living off of it. Jerrod Zisser is not a grifter. He's an independent journalist who speaks the truth, and he's got a lot to offer our country and this industry. Jerrod, come on in, man. I would love to get your reaction about what's happening in Venezuela and other stuff before we get to the story that we covered together. But what do you make of what's happened in Venezuela as a military combat veteran?
I mean, well, first of all, it's another example of how, our government doesn't learn from past mistakes. I mean, we've tried to do this with Iraq. We failed. Afghanistan, we failed. Libya, we failed. I think Iran, we failed. Look, we've tried this so many times, and every single time we do it, we botch it. Just completely botch it. And the problem is that so many lives are affected. I mean, the amount of people that we lost, Marines, Army, Navy, Coast Guard, in Iraq is staggering. And we're still losing them every single day to suicide because of that operation. And it's because, oh God, and then Trump's response to that, my God, well, you know what? Because Trump didn't do those last ones. Like, give me a break. Sorry.
I love hearing your take, man. I love it. The take with Jerrod, by the way, you should follow that.
I've been in Iraq. I went to Iraq twice with the United States Marine Corps Infantry. And first of all, I never saw any weapons of mass destruction, ever. I actually remember going on a patrol to what was supposed to be probably, I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, but an old facility where they were making these possible WMDs. I'm like, so what?
Uranium, yellow cake, man.
Yeah, and it was a freaking building that was built with center blocks. I'm like, you're telling me that they were doing weapon grade stuff like that and something like this that was all blown up? Like, no, I'm sorry, I don't think so.
Do you think it's better or worse that they don't lie about it anymore? That it's just kind of here, this is what we're doing.
Oh, geez, I'll be honest with you. I really loved being ignorant when I was serving, and for a while after, thinking that I was doing the right thing, because now personally I'm like, cool, so I was there for oil and false narratives, and that sucks. But I mean, I don't know, we are causing a huge problem right now. I mean, just last night there was reports out of Caracas that there was gunfire in the streets. There was explosions happening near the presidential palace.
There's armed men and all roaming around the streets. We've seen video of that as well already.
Yeah, and that's how it started in Iraq. You had the Sunnis, you had the Shiites, and then as soon as the government fell, it's cool. So we're going to war with each other. Let's figure out who can actually run the show here.
And then you have Muqtada al-Sadr's Mehdi army that showed up, and they took over the streets for a little while. I mean, that was insane. You had these bands of militants roaming the streets. It's the power vacuum that always gets created when you take out the evil man, is because there's so many people trying to vie for that position. It's almost though people get used to the dictator because at least they know where the authority is coming from. And then when that person gets taken away, it creates this power vacuum, which is what you're talking about.
100%. I agree with you. Absolutely. And it's only been days. And I feel that within the week, or, at least within 2 weeks, there is going to be some major fighting going on the ground, whether it's between, I don't know, maybe cartels. I don't know, or gangs or different ideologies going at it. I have no idea what it's going to be, but what's going to end up happening is it's going to become our problem because we're the ones that removed Maduro, and we're going to be obligated to go back in there with American troops who are then going to get killed as well. As civilians will get killed. And it's a mess that for some reason Trump thinks that he can completely avoid because his name's on the paper.
And then these oil companies are definitely going to want security. You're going to see people, going out getting contracts to do that sort of stuff. One of the things I wanted to talk to you though about is, as a veteran, is my cousin is a combat military veteran, and he has good days and bad days, like a lot of us who struggle with poor mental health. And one of the videos that he posted a video after the invasion of Caracas. And he said, check on your veterans today. And there was a look in his eye that I'd seen before. And it was one that was full of sorrow and just sort of full of fear and the opposite of hope. What is the reaction among veterans? Do you think that there's any sort of pushback to this? And what have you heard?
You know, it's really interesting. I have veteran friends that are on the left and on the right,
Sure.
and special forces even in San Diego, and I gotten mixed things from them. You know, like personally, when I saw it, I felt the hair on the back of my neck stand up, kind of like just like familiarity. You know, it's like
It puts you right back in that war zone.
well, it reminds me of like just the not knowing what happens next. I mean, even if you went like a week with nothing happening, it's just that one, it takes that 1 second, you know, for things to basically either blow up or just, you know, go crazy. And like one thing I was thinking of is like how Delta, you know, the feeling that they felt when they were on that helicopter over the ocean, you know, like before that was just like panic and strategy and, you know, and just doing everything you possibly can the right way so you don't screw up and your boys don't end up dying. And, you know, it reminds me of the relief I felt every single day when I was in my hooch in Iraq. You know, it's like, okay, cool. So I'm alive now. That's great. Let's go try to get some sleep or whatever. You know what I mean? I can see a lot of people have been affected by it negatively, especially people that I've served with that have kids now, because surprisingly, a large majority of the people that I served with that do have kids do not want their children to, you know, join the Marine Corps like their dad was, just because they feel honored that they did it. They feel, you know, I went to Iraq under false pretenses, unfortunately, because I mean, I thought I was going there I joined the Marine Corps after September 11th, you know.
Wow.
I still had like a couple of years of school, but like I have the Twin Towers on my arm because that's what sparked it. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And that's why I signed up. But what I didn't end up doing anything, you know, good that related to that. So I don't know. And then the thing that bothers I can go on for hours about this and just get pulled in different directions in my mind, but I don't care who you are, where you served, if you were in any type of combat theater, even if you did not get shot at, the overwhelming state of fear of knowing that the next step could be your last is absolutely terrifying.
And that's
I think a lot of people are starting to feel that again, just based on what they saw in television.
Wow. Well, it shocked the hell out of me, man, when I was watching it. You know, like I said, it was about 11 p.m. LA time when I started to get the first alerts, and then it's just like, Jesus Christ, man. I also want you to...
I was gonna go there last week. I was like trying to beg my wife, like, hey, honey, I'm like, I kind of want to just go to like see if I can get to Venezuela for like, I don't know, like a couple weeks and just, you know, get on the ground, interview some people, and just kind of see what's gonna happen. And she said, heck no. But still, I mean, like,
if you need an interpreter, let's go, dog. Let's go.
Definitely would have needed an interpreter. But no, it's absolutely crazy and it's sad. It's really sad. I mean, look, I know the guy was evil. He was a dictator, this and that. But like there's good things and bad things, but at the end of the day, we're putting these people in a really, really bad situation.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I love your insight. Thank you so much for sharing that. I did want to pivot now to our reporting, our stuff that we worked on and collaborated. We had our first collaboration between Nick Valencia News and The Take with Jerrod Zisser. Jerrod had somebody reach out to him who was the victim of an assault by a suspected federal agent. And I believe we have the video that we wanted to show to you guys. And this is something that just happened on any ordinary day. They were in traffic. They saw what they believed to be a car of an immigration agent. And the daughter that she was with 3 kids, an 18-year-old and 2 high schoolers. And they alerted the cars around them, la migra, immigration in Spanish. And then look what happened next. Eric, do we have that video? You want to play that? If we don't, we could just talk about it. All right, I guess we'll just talk about it. So you saw that video there where they drove up and they sprayed into the car. The woman alleges that she was targeted because her daughter was saying La Migra. And so talk to us about the conversation that we had with her. And you actually got the police report again today. We requested it, just affirms what she was saying, backs up her story.
Yeah, and I'm still waiting on the 911 call, which hopefully we'll get today or tomorrow. But this was a very traumatic moment for them. I mean, oh, here we go. Here's the video.
Here's the video here. There you go. There it is. A chemical agent sprayed into their car as their windows are rolled down, and it actually left redness more than a week later on her daughter's chin, the lower half of her face. And what you're looking at there is a still image, a screen grab from the recording, which shows the face of this suspected federal agent. Now, both Jerrod and I, we reached out to do our due diligence in good faith, journalistically, to DHS to get their response about this incident. Police report was filed. The woman pressed charges, wants to press charges, but this man still goes unidentified. Pick it up from there, Jerrod. What do we know?
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm no stranger to witnessing federal agents being extremely abusive, and in my opinion, doing more than they should be allowed to be doing to people. I mean, I've seen protesters basically get arrested for overstepping a line by 1 inch and then having their ribs broken and an entire canister of mace basically just doused on their heads. I mean, look, this is sadly something that we are seeing a lot of, and you know, there's two things you can say about it. Yes, there's increased action being done right now by ICE and other federal agents in the U.S., but at the end of the day, these bad apples are starting to, I hate saying like, oh, it's just a few bad apples. We're beyond that at this point.
No, it's not just a few rogue.
No, we're beyond that at this point, right? At this point, yeah. No, at this point, people's egos are inflated. They think that I don't know. It's really, really sad to see what's happening. This family, this woman, I mean, her 18-year-old daughter, these people are traumatized. And just to clear up, because there's so many comments in, you know, the threads that we've been posting about this, these people were not actively chasing ICE.
Right.
They were not trying to get in any trouble. They were not doing anything they should not have been.
These aren't sort of follow ICE around either.
No, they saw what they thought was an ICE vehicle behind them, and they started warning the family and other people around them that they were present. Nothing illegal about that, by the way. There's no obstruction there, no interfering with anybody's duty there at all, period. And then this guy came over and sprayed her, and you can tell the driver of that vehicle was like trying to look in and all like trying to watch the show. And then as soon as they realized that that was kids and, you know, women inside of a vehicle, they flipped their lights on and cut through tons of traffic to get on the freeway and bolt. Yeah, so yeah, it's
the full saying is a few bad apples spoil the bunch. And so if you have a few bad apples within, I mean, it's this conservative argument that one is too many. If one undocumented immigrant commits a felony, they speak for them all. Does this suspected federal agent then speak for all of the agents who are committing these? You know, it's abuse. It's terrorizing the community. And yet,
I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. And yet on that, in the 15th of December, something that I want to talk to Cynthia Santiago. She's in the waiting room. She's an immigration attorney. She represents a lot of activists and has done a lot of work in the LA community. And I want to ask her about this when we have her. But while we have you, the feds are broadening the definition of domestic terrorism to include people like us. And we have a conversation about whether or not we should show the agent's face. Now, the woman, the victim in this, she posted the suspected agent's face online. We posted it as well. There's journalistic value, public interest. Is this something that you think about? I want to get your take. Now that the feds have sort of broadened what it is to interfere with their operation, it seems to include people like us.
Yeah, you know, honestly, it does. I'm not personally worried about it. Just because, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I should be worried about it, honestly, because I do definitely, you know, blur the line sometimes when it comes to journalism and, you know, I'm not an activist, but I know a lot of activists and I tell their stories quite a bit. So if the administration or the DOJ wants to label me a domestic terrorist, that's going to suck while having to fight it. But at the end of the day, I do not see any judge basically, or any jury for that matter, convicting me on anything like that. I mean, look, they have been using that memo already, and 80% of those cases have judges laughing everybody out of the courtroom. Or even the guy that threw a sandwich at somebody in DC, you know, and they said it was assault on a police officer. That guy was told to basically leave.
That the state attorney Bill Asaley in California is the biggest loser, man. I mean, he gets these headlines of overcharging activists, and then he loses.
Yes,
all the time. It's
look, it would suck. It might be traumatizing to have an FBI show up to my house, pulling me out, and this and that, and going to like a detention center and all that, and having to go through all the courts and everything. Like, but at the end of the day, I mean, he's trying to scare journalists. Let's be real. That's why there's a special little place on the White House webpage where he lists all the journalists that don't agree with what he says. And he's trying to scare people. And I'm just not going to let that happen.
It'd be a badge of honor to see my name up there with you, Jerrod. God bless you, man. So grateful for you to join the show and to be on with us. The Take with Jerrod Zisser. He's all over the place. Substack, Instagram, TikTok. He has grown his audience by leaps and bounds. He's also the host of Ring of Fire. Check him out on YouTube. Thank you so much, man, for taking the time with Nick Valencia Live. Appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, brother. Talk to you soon.
You too. Jerrod Zisser, man, friend of the show and friend of mine. Love that. We pivot now. I talked about her just a little while ago. Cynthia Santiago. She's an attorney who has done a lot of work protecting the rights, the First Amendment rights, the Fourth Amendment rights of civilians, everyday people who are documenting this aggressive tactic by Trump's deportation forces in America. Cynthia Santiago joins us live now on Nick Valencia Live. Thank you so much for taking the time with us. Really appreciate seeing you again, Cynthia.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Yes, thank you.
So let's get right into it. You heard that conversation with Jerrod. You've seen what the Trump administration has done in targeting individuals. Some of them have been people that you know. Talk to us about the overreach by the federal government and what's being done to protect civilians.
Yeah, there's definitely an amount of individuals that call me that are doing what you just described, driving through their community. They see ICE enforcement action and they're not following, they're not being aggressive towards them, and they're simply just doing what any U.S. citizen or U.S. Person in the U.S. can do, which is to exercise their rights.
Right? When you see ICE record it.
And so, they're being met with the most aggressive conduct and unreasonable. And so I know there is efforts right now with several of the organizations to litigate this issue as to our First Amendment right, our right to speech, press, expression. And so the ability for people to walk outside and record something that's happening or go to a protest without fear that they're going to be gravely injured or attacked by an agent is something that is really a part of what our U.S. democracy is about. It's about being able to express yourself.
And thank God, Cynthia, for these recordings, because the government narrative is often proven wrong and out deliberately, sometimes misleading in a court of law. I bring this up because we had a pretty well-known TikToker in Los Angeles who was cornered. The feds, they delayed in giving the evidence of the body camera, which was part of the reason why the judge threw out the charges. This video, which we have, shows a much different story from what the Fed said. They said he was using his car. Oh, I don't think we have it, but I'll just describe it. They said he was using his car as a weapon, but what the video and the body camera shows is that the shot was fired well after that was happening. Talk to me about this overreach, the overcharging, Bill Asalee getting these headlines of charging activists only to lose on merit in court.
Yeah, I represent several individuals, both documented and undocumented folks that are simply, taking out their cell phones because, as you mentioned, if there's not somebody recording, then a person is disappeared. And this is also very important that we want to be able to identify who just got taken because it takes days and weeks for this person. I actually spoken to individuals that couldn't get in contact with their family for a good month because they were detained and they didn't have the numbers. And so it is a part of being able to have a freedom to take your phone out and record. And just like we cherish like social media and all these videos that people do in public, then this should be something that we should be able to do. And as you mentioned, without these recordings, for example, my client, Mr. Francisco Longoria, his charges were dismissed. There was a claim that he hit an ICE officer. And then when the videos surfaced, there was no evidence of that. And then in court, even, the prosecutor's office was basically saying that they didn't really have that kind of information. They didn't know if someone had been injured. And so these are things that are important because, we have to be able to show that their actions are unwarranted. If we are going to, basically give in to these fears that they're trying to instill in us and these attempts to silence us, then we're going to be giving up a lot of our First Amendment and Fifth Amendment rights as well.
And I don't know if they can be held accountable for straight up lying, because we see it in the videos. I mean, we talked to an activist who was accused of using a 15-ounce or 14-ounce umbrella to violently attack a federal agent. And that was thrown out, that case, on merit. You see the video, she's using it as a shield because they're trying to bear spray her. And they were saying that they feared for their lives. You know, she's half their size.
Yeah, and that's another point, is that a lot of the conduct that's being used, unreasonable use of force, excessive force, they can, based on their own policy and protocol, they can only use this type of force if it's something that they fear, like their life's in danger. They were seriously injured. And so in many of these cases that we've seen, as you mentioned before, just crossing the line barely is, somebody else. I've talked to other cases and seen other cases where somebody else I've read, simply like was falling over on the crowd, and same thing. It was now being accused of an assault on an officer. So
we had Mario Guerrada, a journalist here in Atlanta, who was arrested for stepping off a curb, equivalent of jaywalking, and then now he's back in El Salvador because of it. I mean, it's so bogus and beyond. And they brought in what it is to interfere with their investigation, or what it is to means to fear for their lives. And it's like, are they ever going to be held accountable? They're wearing masks. Who the hell are these guys? And then they try to scare us, Cynthia, and saying if we put them out in public interest, like this guy in Ohio who broke the law, he assaulted civilians. Now, all of a sudden, I've got to fear that there's going to be a knock on my door because I'm putting out the federal agent's face. This is beyond.
No. This is why we continue to record. We continue to litigate these things. We get in front of judges who are neutral, judges who are not going to just sign off on an order without really doing the proper checks and balances that we need, and having the standards that we have, like a reasonableness standard. And so I have encouraged our public, if you're undocumented and you're out reporting, just to take precautions. But I also have said that a lot of times they use these tactics to do a federal charge to then put the person into immigration proceedings. And so where the standards are completely different in federal criminal court, there's a certain level of standard, and the judges also respect many of the standing case law that we have of these balances and standard of reasonableness and what they have to prove up. Unfortunately, in immigration court, we're in a completely different world where administrative judges are making blanket decisions because either they're trying to preserve their job or they just have this power that is, unchecked.
And they strain common sense as they're doing it. And these immigration judges do it in the darkness too, because nobody shows up for immigration court hearings. And there's cases. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, a lot of I've been seeing a more and more prevalent factor of doing the court cases over WebEx. It's, online. And so then they don't have a public to show up, and they don't have an audience to be there. And so that is, sadly, what is happening across the U.S. in our courts. And as you mentioned, I also was able to go to New York a few months ago, and I was in the 26 Federal Plaza. A lot of individuals were too afraid to go. They do it the right way. They do it they do it the other way, where they're, missing court. They end up with a deportation order. Either way, they are put into a really difficult position.
The cruelty and chaos is the point. We talked to a former ICE prosecutor who said that they're starting to put immigration agents outside of these administrative hearings in order and act as a way of intimidating people so that they don't show up and that they fall into this trap of all of a sudden they're susceptible to removal. That's the point.
Because they get the order. They get the order automatically if they don't show up to court.
Right. And there's people that are making that decision right now as to whether or not they should go. While I have you, I want to get some, you're an attorney, you deal with a lot of immigration related stuff, tangential stuff, civil rights things. Any advice that you can give to people? I say this because I've learned of a couple people who have been able to get out. I'm not an attorney, but it seems as though when you're detained, filing a habeas corpus petition to try to get a hearing is an effective first start. That means just effectively getting a hearing in front of somebody. Let me show me the body, produce the body, right? What else should people be doing besides getting loud about their case? Any other advice you have?
For immigration cases, yes. So the first thing is I have published, like, get in contact with your family member. You can look them up on the ICE locator. They are shifting people from certain locations, California to Texas and other locations. So just stay on top of your family member. Reach out to the consulates, the local consulates of the family member's country of birth. They also provide assistance because they're the first to be able to interview them once they've gone through ICE processing. The other thing that we do is that you just get a consultation, get a really honest, reputable attorney. If somebody is pressuring you to sign, to pay them money, to Zelle them, you just have to be really careful. You get a contract with that person, you review what they're going to do or not do. If your family member has a very complex history, then I would try to get a second opinion, because there's an opportunity for family members to be like, their family member may have an order and they don't know, and then they pay somebody and their money is gone. So we're just being very cautious of who you talk to, who you get advice from. And then I always recommend having that attorney go and visit your family member, because then they can give them the breakdown. Are you willing to be detained for 2 to 3 months as this process plays out? Nothing in immigration court is overnight. Everything takes several weeks. We've had a client waiting 4 weeks for a hearing, keep filing motions. And then habeas. Habeas is the route that now we have to present first, so that then a federal judge will order the immigration judge to actually conduct a bond hearing. And unfortunately, we're also seeing immigration judges, despite that order, not giving people the most fair bond hearings and finding just reasons to deny it. And so you just want to be conscious that these things are taking a while, that there's several steps involved, but that if your family member is willing and they have the support, fight it out, because it is worth it. I have seen family members released and hug their family, and they're back home with their family. And so it's worth it to have your family member back if that's their scenario, if that's their case.
You have to be resilient, as traumatizing as it is. It is so traumatizing, not just for the undocumented, but also for the American civilian who's been caught up in this. My last question to you, Cynthia Santiago, what advice do you have for journalists, others who are practicing their First Amendment right and documenting Trump's mass deportation army?
Yeah, just set up an emergency plan with your loved ones, with your friends, and just know that if you're going to be out and doing your work, which is something that is still protected by our Constitution, then just have that plan in place. Because a lot of times what I've seen when citizens get detained, there's several hours where you don't hear from them, they're not updated in the system, and so you just have to be patient that hopefully they will be released that same day. As we mentioned before, they're not really being charged. There's this like kind of chilling effect they want to do against journalists and those who observe. As a citizen, you have the most amount of rights and protections still at this point. And so we do encourage you to continue to exercise those rights and to continue to fight your case and not be afraid of this potential silencing attempt from the government. But if you are detained under federal criminal charges, I love the Federal Criminal Public Defender's Office. They are fighters. They will fight for the community. If not, you can hire a private attorney, but just have a plan in place so that your family members can activate, or your friends can activate if you're detained. But I've usually seen people released within hours, and then able to go on with their lives again. It's really difficult for them to get indictments, as was previously said. It's difficult for them to even get these charges to go through. It's just very much a tactic being used to silence and instill fear in us. But I know that if we continue to do what we're doing and advocating for our community, then we have to put resistance in this form.
And you could absolutely. And you could judge how open and free a country is based on how open and free the press is. And we are here to use our voice, here to stand up to the bullshit, because there's a lot of it. Cynthia Santiago, thank you so much for taking the time with Nick Valencia Live, Los Angeles-based attorney. How can people keep up with you real quick?
Abogada Santiago. I'm on the social media platforms. I made a pledge that this year I'm going to start posting more of these
There we go.
guides for families, how to get in touch with your family, how to go visit your family, how to make, calls. And so I'm going to do my best to keep putting all these guides. Thanks to all the rapid responders and volunteers, we've come together to create more aftercare, aftercare guides for families.
Can't
No
wait
one
for
should be
it.
alone.
You
Yes.
cannot wait for. We'll probably use some of it, some of the
Yes.
advice. Thank you so much, Cynthia. We'll see you next time.
All righty. Take care.
Awesome. And of course, the Trump fans have entered the chat. I see that as we're talking to Cynthia Santiago, and something that I hear a lot of times about, Obama deported so many people. Obama deported more people since Truman, or some people think he deported more people than Truman. He deported 300,000 people every single year and counting. That's the truth. And if you want to question my energy towards it, just go look up my name at Obama and UACs, and you'll see that I was the journalist that broke the story about his treatment of unaccompanied child minors, which is why I'm here standing on business, because anyone who comes and says that I didn't have the same energy during a Democratic president can literally go look at the record. Okay. The other thing that is not factually accurate is that Obama did it without the chaos. He did it without the cruelty, because that wasn't a matter of policy for them. They didn't do it with masks on their face, where you're seeing all of these ICE agents who know what they're doing is wrong, which is why they cover their face. It's not about doxing. It's not about fearing for their lives. We see police officers out there every single day putting their lives on the line. Thank God for them keeping our communities safe. And they're not wearing masks unless they're going after the bad guys. Or like, the first time I saw masks, we talk about this all the time, was when I was covering cartels in Mexico. They're going after grandmas. They're going after people like, Carlos de la Valle, who put a kid through college. They're going after people like Masuma Khan, who, got taken advantage of by a grifter because her kid was sick. And she's, the most lovely person. That's who they're going after. They're not going after the hardened criminals. If this was about adjusting the pendulum swing, great. Let's just go after the people that Biden let in. But you're not. You're going after people who have been here for 20, 30 plus years. Don't come at me with all this nonsense about your, look, I am not claiming to be unbiased about the undocumented. This is the mission that we are on. My voice and the reason that I'm here is to stand up for the undocumented community, because the conversation should not start at deportation. It should start at amnesty. We should have a reasonable and level-headed conversation in this country about doing right to the people who do right for us and who add value to this country. Because they're not out there in the grape fields, white Americans. They laugh at that notion. They're not out there doing the jobs that we need to be done. Service worker positions, cleaning your hotel rooms, taking care of your kids, being the cooks in the kitchens at your favorite Mexican restaurants that you wear your sombreros at on the Cinco de Mayo. Come on, guys. Don't bullshit a bullshitter here. It's not real when you say that Obama deported more people and he blah, blah, blah. This is what Trump ran on. He came down that golden escalator to say Mexicans were rapists, murderers. They're not sending the best of the best. Trump, in my opinion, probably not a racist. He's a classist, because if you're a person of color with a shit ton of money, he has your back and he loves you, and you probably love him, because it's all about the powerful and the elite helping each other. I did not come from a pipeline of prestige. My dad clawed tooth and nail to get what he had. My executive producer didn't come from a pipeline of prestige either. He's the son of child migrants. My wife, she comes from Appalachia. Okay, that's her family's background. There's a lot of commonalities between our struggle and theirs, I tell you. The people that are part of this team are on a mission to be the voice of the people, not to be partying with the elite. We hold the powerful accountable, Before I let you go, I wanted to give you an update. We're talking about government waste and government spending, and where are the don't tread on me folks. You see all these agents out there, all these flights of transferring detainees around. You hear it from attorneys. They don't even know where their clients are. An update here about a woman that we have reported on, and we reported on over the holidays, an American woman who the government is saying was born in Mexico, even though they have the documents to prove otherwise. Her attorney is saying that she was born here. Dulce Consuelo Morales Diaz, 20-something-year-old who was detained while leaving a Taco Bell because she was speaking Spanish. She was transferred from the Northeast to Louisiana. And then, her attorney finds that out basically without not from the government, but because she's looking her up on the ICE locator from her A number. This weekend, she was transferred yet again to New Jersey. We don't know why. Her attorney says she doesn't want to read too much into the tea leaves, but there's a story there. Thanks, Eric. Breaking U.S.-born American wrongfully detained by ICE, abruptly transferred, fears deportation. She's been transferred again. Her attorney has no idea why. We've got an idea. These private prisons and private companies that are involved in all of this, they profit when people have to be moved, right? Someone's making money. We're here to speak the truth, man. We're here to make truth go viral. Thank you guys, everyone who showed up on the chat. YouTube was very active today. Thank you guys to our viewers on Substack, on Instagram. Thank you to my executive producer, Eric Sandoval. Thank you guys for helping us make truth go viral. I really appreciate it, guys. And as always, have a great day on purpose. See you later.